I saw America as she passed by. Oh, I'm a restless one, won't rest till I die.
Vi är på väg ut ur Washington, på väg västerut. Men man behöver inte åka långt åt något håll för att komma till ett annat Amerika. Där ute, utanför Washington, finns det riktiga Amerika, säger de som misstror den federala och centrala makten. Och det är många. Men vilket Amerika där ute är det riktiga? För Amerika är ganska mycket vad människor tror att det är. Vilken idé eller berättelse om Amerika som man tror på. Idag finns ganska tydligt åtminstone 2 sådana berättelser. 2 stora och delvis motstridiga föreställningar om vad Amerika är eller bör vara. Vi är på väg till West Virginia. West Virginia är en glest befolkad stat i den långa bergskedja Appalacherna som skiljer östra USA från slättlandet i väster. Det är fattigt, vitt, socialt konservativt och kristet religiöst. Arbetslösheten är högre än i resten av Amerika. Utbildningsnivån är lägre och gapet till resten av USA är växande. Ändå en symbolisk stat för det Amerika där religion och moral tycks spela en större roll för hur folk röstar än deras sociala och ekonomiska villkor.
Good morning. Well, let's get you inside.
It's a well-read
Yes, it's worn out. My Bible is worn out.
Absolutely.
So,
That's St. James. That's
Hello.
the New International one.
yes,
Yeah.
easier to understand.
St. James you know by heart, though.
Yeah.
You do?
I can't lie on the church parking lot.
Vi har bjudits in till söndagsgudstjänst i Farmdale Church of Christ av Kelly Sobonia, en av 100 delegater i West Virginias delstatsparlament. Övertygad republikan, djupt bibeltroende kristen fundamentalist skulle vi kanske säga, starkt engagerad i moralfrågor. Kelly är gift med Ed och har 2 tonårsbarn, Andrew och Abby. Det var inte helt okontroversiellt att ta med oss främlingar med tv-kameror in i kyrkan. Misstänksamheten lyser från några av bänkraderna. Några lämnar i protest. Men Gud stannar kvar.
Get up and go. Not waiting for the enemy to come to us, but realize the enemy is something we need to pursue. The devil is not our master. The devil is not the one with the power.
You know, there's 2 competing ideologies in America. You know, there's the liberal and there's the conservative. And then you have some that follow, the fence sitters that sit in the middle. I'm not a fence sitter because I know what the Bible says. You sit on the fence, if you're lukewarm, you will be spat out. So I think you either have to be one way or the other.
Kelly och Ed Sobonia tillhör onekligen den amerikanska medelklassen. Och de jobbar båda hårt.
How you doing, big guy?
Kelly är fastighetsmäklare och Ed försörjer sig som byggnadssnickare. Eds stora hobby, ja hans stora passion och därmed också en viktig del av Kellys tillvaro, har fått ett eget rum.
Oh my God. Wide steering makes you feel strong. You throw your feet up on the pegs when you're going down the highway and wave to people, you know. It makes you feel free, like America, freedom, you know.
We use it. It's not just a museum piece.
I go on trips.
We have fun. So.
Takes my mind off things, you know.
You don't drive this thing?
No, he won't let me.
Why not?
I can't pick it up.
Yeah,
You try.
It's heavy enough.
But this is our gun closet, pretty much. Close that. I was 18 at the time when I bought my first rifle of mine. Here it is, fellas. Ruger 270. Pop open sights. This is the bullet I shoot. 270 Winchester. You can see pretty much probably about this gun's good for about 300 yards. This is the Harley of guns, pretty much.
My view is this: if I want to own a gun, I want to own a gun. I don't want someone to tell me, Ed, you can only have one gun, Ed, you can only have two guns. You know, if I want an arsenal of guns in my house, I'm going to have an arsenal of guns. I don't want someone to tell me what I can have and how I can have it. You know, if I personally go out and pay for it and it's my gun, so be it. I'm going to have 15, 20 guns. You know, I don't like the government to tell me what to do and how to do it.
But if anyone would come up with the idea that you would have a limited gun control, or let's say not having submachine guns or whatever, he would probably lose here, wouldn't he?
I would think so, because people are very gun-oriented in this area. You know, people like to be protected. People like to not be told what to do, how to do it. You know, we're very strong-minded people in this area, you know, and that's why I like it. You know, I like this area because people are nice. You know, it's like everybody sticks to their own, you know, it's really...
Yeah, people are nice, but you still keep guns in your house to protect you, so you're afraid of something. What would that be then?
You never know. You know, I mean, I just want to be prepared, and that's something that I believe I don't want to be bothered with. I don't want someone to tell me, I don't want the government to tell me, Ed, you can't have a 45, or Ed, you can't have a 38. So, well, you know, I'm going to have one.
I've been a lifelong Republican since I was 18 and able to vote, and I believe that the Republican Party shares my values. You know, our party has a platform as well as the Democrat Party, and in our platform we are pro-life, which we oppose abortion. We believe that it's the taking of an innocent life. We also believe in traditional marriage, and as a conservative Christian and as a state leader and a member of the Republican Party, I believe that marriage should be for man and woman only. That's the way it's been since the beginning of time, since Adam and Eve in the garden, and God had a plan, and you know, it doesn't matter what religion you're from or what background. Traditional family has been man and woman only.
Why is this area conservative? Why is it not liberal, so to speak, mostly anyway? Even the Democrats are not that liberal down here.
Right. I think it's the people. You know, we're just good old-fashioned people here in West Virginia, as reflective in the rest of the southern states. You know, we have a lot of traditional family values, and it's just generational. You know, my parents were conservative, my grandparents were conservative, and we passed that tradition down to our family. You know, you have just a lot of tradition here in West Virginia. I don't know if you've heard that song by John Denver, Country Roads. But these are the country roads of West Virginia I'm sure he was referring to. A lot of country roads. Country roads take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia. Mountain Mama, take me home, country roads. And I'm not going to sing it. I cannot sing very well. To the place I belong, West Virginia. We are going out to the Salt Rock area of Cabell County, and it's the rural part of my district. This area here would flood every time it rained really hard, and the children were trapped in here, and they couldn't get to school, and so the children would have to walk across that mountain and through the cow pasture in order to get the school bus. And they would have to walk for several miles through the mud, and they called to try to get help, and we were able to allocate money to get this project done. We were able to raise this bridge. This bridge didn't exist, you know, last month, and the people would have to drive through that water. They had to drive through the creek to get out of here, and when it rained, they were flooded in and had to take a boat to get out of here. This is an area where it's mostly Democrat in voter registration, and but they traditionally vote Republican. There's two people I know out here, and I'm hoping that they'll take you around, because this is a neighborhood. They're very protective of their privacy, and looks like it's going to rain. And when people come into this neighborhood, all the neighbors will get on the phone and call and say there's somebody coming in. That's how, you know, mostly people that come out here live out here. Some people may not like to be filmed out here, so they might come out with their gun. I don't know. Yeah. A lot of West Virginia people are, you know, they're very prideful and very private. You know, they don't like to have cameras and things like that. Oh, there's a snake we just ran over. We just ran over a snake.
Vi är på väg rakt in i ännu ett möte med den amerikanska paradoxen. Med den slående självmotsägelsen i hjärtat av det här samhället. Mellan drömmen om individuell frihet och längtan efter social gemenskap. Mellan rädsla och tillförsikt. Mellan stor misstänksamhet och stor gästfrihet. Det har slutat regna och Pat Sharp Doll har bestämt sig för att ta emot oss.
Well, did y'all shut that gate out front? She went through the flood.
Okay.
Oh yeah, she had water up to her nose. Say hi, Callie. I could get her leash. Would you like to say hi to one of your... I could put a little sign on her. I could put a little sign on her in the election.
Inte ett vapen i sikte. Mitt i vad som nyss var en hotfull avkrok i skogen, ett öppet hus och en charmerande, intelligent kvinna som en gång i livet tjänade $80,000 om året. Det gör hon inte nu längre.
I love it out here. And I've lived probably in lowered every state in the United States, I think. You know, originally it was supposed to just be camps out here. You know, all it was a summer camp area. Over...
Hey. Thunderstorms. You have often thunderstorms here.
Yeah. Well, we've had nothing but rain for about 2 years solid. There was water, if you want to pan out, there was water all the way up to here. This was nothing but a river last February. Nothing but a river. My house, this porch was gone. It was underwater.
So you were flooded in, basically?
Oh, yeah. My neighbor called me from down there to see if water was coming in her house, and I said, holy, I got to go. There's water coming in my front door.
So for days you could...
When I went to leave, this had already washed down.
You could be locked in for a day or two?
Oh, we had in the past, until the road got fixed, been flooded up here for 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
So how did you get food and whatever?
That's why we live out here. You learn, well, how can I say this? You learn not to piss off your neighbors in the summertime because you might need them in the wintertime. Because we went around and we borrowed bread, we borrowed milk, we kept each other going. Because literally there was not an agency that wanted to come out to help us. So we help ourselves. We are a diverse group of people out here. We are, Americana. We have our haves and our have-nots, and we learn to live along beside each other. And we can be mad at each other one day, but if it floods and we're stuck and we need help, we're there to help each other.
You know, America is facing an election, and perhaps many people say it's an important one. What's your view?
Something's got to be done. This is probably one of the most important elections that I can remember since back in the 70s. The economy is horrible. I don't like the negative ads. No one does. I think I vote for people on their merit and what they do. I don't vote for a party. I vote for the person.
So
don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do.
So what's your view of the merits of the sitting president, of the current president? He had 4 years to show them.
I'm sure he's a very fine individual.
There's something more to be said there.
Well, I'm trying, when you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. I'm sure he's a fine individual. I know he's, honestly, he's had a lot to work with after 9/11. Mistakes were made, but we all make mistakes. But unfortunately, he's the leader of our country. And when when George Bush makes a mistake, it affects millions and millions and millions of people.
This is not America.
I am a retired individual that worked for 32 years. I didn't want to be sick. I went from making $84,000 a year to being on Social Security. I'm one of those people that have had to ask. The government that I paid into, though, nothing, that I've asked for free, for help. I worry about when my nieces and nephews and my great-nieces and nephews, 30 years from now, when they find themselves in a situation that I found myself in at 42 years old and all of a sudden with a liver disease and not able to work again. Is Social Security going to be there to help them? Is Medicare, is anyone going to be there to help them? And I don't know that. I'm not comfortable with that answer because I don't know the answer. But again, I'm a believer that, God puts us in places sometimes we don't know why. Maybe for whatever reason, as ironic as it sounds, I was living in a nice home down in South Florida with a nice car, then all of a sudden I'm out in Holiday Park with no road, no bridge, nothing. And now we have a road, and now we have a school bus coming in, so, it's not my way, it's his way, so God put me here for a reason. I don't understand his humor, because there's times that I have a little bit of problem finding humor in all this, but apparently we're all put here for a reason, and maybe my reason was to get sick so I could get a road built. Who knows?
One on the Tom Broughton Morning Show, News Talk 800 WVHU 1230 WIRO. I think that in some part, this presidential election on November 2nd, 2004 may be about righting the wrong of Vietnam. And I don't mean whether or not...
I bilradion nästa morgon ännu ett av dessa starkt konservativa pratradioprogram som helt dominerar det amerikanska radiolandskapet, inte minst i West Virginia. Men den här radioprataren ska vi inte bara lyssna till.
Milton 72 in Huntington, you're listening to the Tom Broughton Morning Show, News Talk 800 WVHU. All right, you're on.
What is the link between your religious values and your political standpoints?
I would not have the feelings that I have politically concerning gay marriage if it weren't for my religious faith. I would not have the feelings that I have concerning abortion, which to me, things like homosexuality and abortion weigh more heavily than jobs and the economy. Jobs and the economy are very important, but when I'm considering who to vote for as a candidate, whether it be on a local level or a national level, things like abortion and that candidate stands on abortion and homosexuality and gambling and things like that are important to me weigh more heavily than jobs and the economy. And since that weighs more heavily to me as a voter, it weighs more heavily to me as a commentator on the air with my job.
So if you would define the choice in this fall, what is this choice mainly about in your view?
Good and evil.
Are you serious?
Yes, very.
So you would say that Kerry represents evil and Bush represents good?
Yes, absolutely. On the November ballot. So we're talking about West Virginia's delegates going to New York City, or already in New York City, for the start of the Republican National Convention today.
Hur många republikanska konventdelegater tänker som Tom Roden att valet den 2 november står mellan ont och gott, när de den 31 augusti reser in i vad många av dem kanske betraktar som ett syndens näste, det starkt demokratiska New York, för att just där ännu en gång välja George W. Bush till sin presidentkandidat. New York, som med sitt urbana kaos, sitt kulturella myller och sin sexuella fördomsfrihet, kanske är symbolen för ett helt annat Amerika än det de själva kommer ifrån, eller själva skulle drömma om att leva i. Hur som helst, ett i mina ögon symbolladdat möte mellan ett Amerika och ett annat. Och som av en händelse, på platsen från vilken all amerikansk politik numera tar sin utgångspunkt, Ground Zero, träffar jag en av West Virginias delegater på konventet på sitt första besök någonsin i New York.
Hello. Hi. Are you from West Virginia? I can see that on your... Yeah. Good to see you. We just came from West Virginia.
This isn't like where I'm from at all. Most of you Europeans think this is America. But America isn't like this at all. Most of the people live in the country, small towns, and akin to Europe, really.
Well, some people think this is America.
I know, that's a big mistake. And this isn't America. It isn't typical of America.
New York.
Yes, that's the point I was trying to say.
So you come from obviously a working class background.
Yes.
How come you're a Republican? Democrats claim that they are the working class party.
But they left the working class long ago. They don't represent the working class. The Republicans believe in letting you spend the money the way you like to spend it.
And that's your view too?
Yes, sure.
What do you think about Christian conservatives? There are many religious people in the party.
Yes, I am a Christian conservative, but that doesn't mean I'm a right-wing nut, you know? so without Christianity, where would Europe or America be? We wouldn't exist, man. I hate to get so enthusiastic, but that's true for your country as well as mine.
So tonight, no, that's tomorrow night is the big night.
The president will speak.
West Virginia has 30 votes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Shelley Moore Capito, Congresswoman of the great state of West Virginia. The motto of the great state of West Virginia is "Mountaineers are always free." And we are proud to cast all 30 of our votes to the man whose leadership is bringing freedom to millions around the world. Our frequent visitor, our good friend, our president, the President of the United States, George W. Bush!
This nation was started not by religious people, not by religionists, but by Christians. Our oldest document is the Mayflower Compact. And if you go back and study that document, that thing is full, and it says we dedicate this nation to the spreading or the propagation of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that's why this country was founded. Now, just like the Statue of Liberty, you know, how she welcomes all those of different backgrounds, she welcomes all those of different views. But this nation's foundation still remains God, and we welcome them here, and we respect their right to do what, you know, their thing. But that doesn't mean they come in and tell us what our nation stands for. They can't tell us to pull "In God We Trust" off our coinage. You know, they have no right to tell us to pull it off of our public buildings because God started this nation. I believe that.
Det var hit de kom en sen höst 1620. De nybyggare, 102 sammanlagt, som mer än några andra skulle prägla utvecklingen av det här samhället. Det de kom på ser vi en kopia av här. Båten Mayflower, som ombord hade vad vi idag skulle kalla kristna fundamentalister. Puritaner kallade de sig själva, renläriga. Vill man söka rötterna till både den religiösa friheten och den religiösa fundamentalismen, både individualismen och moralismen, både paradisdrömmen och helvetesrädslan, ja, då ska man söka här, i det puritanska arvet. En som hävdar det är James Morone, forskare och författare till den här boken, Helveteseldens nation.
där han hävdar att det puritanska arvet fortfarande lever starkt i dagens Amerika.
The Puritans arrive in 1630, and they look around and they have the terrible question to answer. Who are we? This great existentialist problem in America. In England, it was easy. They were, and Netherlands, they were pursued, they were persecuted, so they knew who the Puritans were. When they got to America, they had this problem, and they solved it in an astonishing way. They decided that they were the community of saints. In their Calvinist heads, they knew who had been preordained by God to be saved. And so they decided their community was a community of saints, literally saints. People were preordained. And so the leaders were people who could prove that God had chosen them. So the first thing to understand about the Puritans is they bequeath an idea to America. This idea that there are good people, saints, running the society, and bad people all around. And the bad people have to be kept away, because if they mix in with the good people, the city on the hill will no longer be a city on a hill. So to understand American society, you have to understand this restless, endless quest to separate the good people from the bad people. The constant fear about this. To understand today's Republican Party, you have to understand a party that believes this tradition, this Puritan tradition, that there are bad people out there, and if we don't separate the good from the bad, it'll destroy America. So when you hear Republicans say this is a battle between good and evil, you think, well, come on, you're not being serious. But they are being serious, and they're participating in one of the great old myths, the greatest, oldest myth in American culture, the difference between us and them.
How come it survived for so long time? It's nearly 400 years now since.
It's astonishing. We've got so many new immigrant groups, and yet over and over again, as other societies have moved from very religious to secular, America says, as you just implied, America stays this religious, highly moral society. And one thing that's been very useful for maintaining this sense is the separation of church and state. There has always been a furious competition among religions in the United States because no religion has ever been the official religion. So anybody with a radio station can start their own religion. There's another part of it that no one really understands. There are lots of religions around to keep this going, but why do Americans take it so seriously? And that, there's no good answer that any scholar has ever really come up with.
So can one say that the polarization that we now perceive in American society is in fact a battle between two different creeds with the same Puritan origin?
I'd put it slightly differently. In the 1960s, the left embraced its creed. It's an idea that you have to blame the system for people's individual failures, that if we have 2.1 million people in jail, for example, as Americans do, that would be a problem of the criminal justice system, not of individuals. But something very dramatic happened in American society in the 1980s. Ronald Reagan came along and said, no, it's not the system. Forget all that liberal 60s stuff. It's the individual. And that began to make a great change, the greatest and most important change in American politics in the last generation. Conservatives embraced their side of the Puritan tradition. There's good and there's evil. But on the other side, liberals, leftists, began to leave aside their great moral tradition. So that when conservatives say it's between good and evil, leftists have stopped arguing it's wrong that people are hungry or homeless or in trouble. It's the fault of the system. We have to transform the system. And leftists have become secularists. They've lost their Puritan tradition. And as a consequence, I think as a direct consequence, conservatives have slowly taken over American politics.
So what you're arguing basically is that American politics cannot do without a moral fervor, cannot do without a moral base for its arguments and for its visions. It's there.
If you want to move Americans, if you want to get them in their souls, in their hearts, if you want them to go to the polls in great numbers, you have to make a moral argument. It's always a dialectic between individual and community with this deep Puritan overlay. It's not just ways of organizing society, it's ways of organizing the good, the moral society, the city on the hill. I know it sounds strange, but that's America for you. It has to be put as a religion. The great question is whether Kerry can find that church, make his way to the pulpit, and articulate it. And if he does, my guess is that he'll win this election. And if he doesn't, he'll get slaughtered.
Egentligen kan man ju säga att hela det här landet är grundat på något slags religion. Eller åtminstone en bibel. Vad är författningen, konstitutionen, frihetsförklaringen? Annat än ett slags bibel för Amerika, för det amerikanska samhället. Man kan köpa den också som en liten bibel. The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States of America. Och båda de här dokumenten författades i den stad vi nu är på väg till, Philadelphia, där vi ska träffa Camille Paglia, som hävdar att hela det amerikanska samhället behöver något slags religion, något slags tro för att hålla ihop.
There's absolutely no doubt that political principles in the United States have to be asserted with some kind of a religious aura. It is very paradoxical. A case like Ronald Reagan, whom the people thought was a very religious person, but hardly ever attended church. But he simply exuded, the signs of committed religiosity. And Bill Clinton would make a great show of going to church with his Bible tucked in his hand and so on, but apparently was living the most bacchanalian kind of a life, a true hedonist in the style of the Roman emperors. But yet there is it is expected, the American people expect that the president will be the embodiment of cultural and ethical values, because all of our functions are, of course, condensed in that one person. It's a symbolic office, and to win that office, you must know how to trigger and to play upon the people's impulses.
You argue that the political growth of Christian fundamentalists, or it's the growth of Christian fundamentalism as a political force, came as a reaction to the failure of the religious message, so to speak, of the left of the 60s.
Yes, one of the tragedies of 60s progressive politics is that it failed to understand its need to at least pay lip service of respect toward the religious traditions of the United States, because what rose up as a backlash to these 60s movements was Christian fundamentalism of the most narrow kind, of a kind that one had thought was long gone, that belonged to the pre-World War II era, and has now come back so powerfully. And that anyone can witness on our television shows that are driven by charismatic evangelical ministers, some of whom are genuine and some of whom are simply in it to earn money. But the tens of thousands of people that come to hear these ministers in stadiums and that send money over over to the mail to these people, it's one of the things that holds this country together. There's something very manipulative, obviously, in this evangelical style that I'm talking about. It's too close to Hitler's style of working the crowds. But nevertheless, I think that it's at the essence of what is going on in American politics. It may be that kind of voice is absolutely crucial in order to communicate to a country so large, so vast, that is like 3,000 miles across and 1,000 miles this way, and has it's such a patchwork of geography and of ethnicities.
Så hur hänger det hela ihop? Hur kan det hela hänga ihop? Den amerikanska paradoxen med den religiösa moralismen och den individuella friheten. En av dem som försökt reda ut den saken är Alan Wolf, forskare och författare i Boston. I ett antal studier byggda på ingående intervjuer med ett stort antal amerikaner i vitt skilda miljöer har han hävdat att nyckeln till gåtan, överraskande nog, är en på det hela taget gemensam amerikansk moraluppfattning.
There's a tendency not to understand that we have a very strong and powerful culture in the United States, and it's one that does bring Americans together and unites them. I see it as a culture strongly influenced by American religion. I think it has a confessional, or what I would call a testimonial aspect, the sense that Bill Clinton really embodied, that you can sort of go out there and confess your sins and be forgiven. I think that's a strong feature of American culture that comes from our Protestant heritage. I think it's a culture that has a strong sense of honor, and that Mr. Bush appeals to that side of the American culture, which really goes back to the years of Andrew Jackson in the 19th century, and don't tread on me, and don't offend our honor, and don't get in my face, and we're going to respond to those kinds of insults to our honor. I think all these things reverberate.
You also argue that the tendency to blame yourself for your failures is also inherent in this culture.
It's a very individualistic culture, and it really takes individualism to an extreme. There is this idea that you are primarily the captain of the ship that determines your life, and if the ship sinks, you're responsible for it. You don't get very far in America by saying that if the ship sinks, it's because a big storm came up and broke the ship apart, because that's not attributing it to you. And when we don't attribute things to ourselves, we attribute them to God. We sort of leave out the fact that society influences individuals, structures, institutions influence individuals. You don't get far talking in that kind of language.
On the other hand, then, you have a streak of moral authoritarianism, or at least movements that have very strong opinions of how people should live their lives. This is on one hand. On the other hand, then, everyone is on his or her own.
That's right. Well, I think they're related. We are both, when it comes to morality, excessively libertarian, everyone do your own thing, and probably excessively authoritarian, let's all do the same thing together.
Still, is there developing a different morality in America? You speak, when you write about moral freedom in one of your books, a different morality in America than in other Western societies, because we really see, at least I perceive, the Americans as becoming more different, perhaps I was deceiving myself before, than from Europeans than they were before.
There probably is a distinct American morality. This notion of moral freedom, for example, this idea that the same kind of individualism that fuels a free market economy should also apply to morality, that people want to be, in a sense, in charge of their own morality, is a very powerful idea in the United States. And I think I'm suggesting that that's the very reason why you then get the more extreme moral regulators. In other words, compared to Europe, we are much more of a morally libertarian society and much more of a morally authoritarian society. And that's one of the reasons why I think the moral issues that pervade American politics seem so odd and so strange to Europeans. They can't understand, where are these? Why is a country that has a recession and a war in Iraq, why is it talking about gay marriage? It's a good question.
This is not America.
Hur kommer det sig att i ett land där så många trots allt är och förblir fattiga, illa lottade, otursdrabbade, kanske chanslösa i försöken att förverkliga den amerikanska drömmen? Hur kommer det sig att så många likväl tror på ett samhälle som bygger på att individen är ensam och stark, och som tycks bli mer upprörda över moraliska avvikelser än av sociala klyftor? Det är en fråga som länge sysselsatt sociologen och Harvard-professorn Orlando Patterson.
People are talking about abortion even though they're facing massive unemployment. Homosexuality, obsession with whether you're going to have a constitutional reform to prevent gay marriages. These are the big issues which somehow they're able to sort of engage people. And even when people are suffering, they don't have health care, they don't have employment, they have, when they are employed, they face tremendous insecurity in their job insecurity. They're overworked. The American worker works sort of, harder than most other countries. And yet, when election comes, they are seduced by these sort of cultural issues. It's a nightmare, and to any rational person, it's the most absurd system imaginable, but it works for these people.
It seems, though, to me that these ideas cater to some need in the American mind, that because in Europe, as you know, it wouldn't work. No one would.
That is true.
So what is it there?
Americans are terrified of being considered a loser. So even if in fact you're not making it, the last thing you want to do is to admit to yourself that you are. And the Republicans have been able to play on this brilliantly. Being Republican is being with the winners, being with the bosses, being with the rich guys, being with the powerful. And so Bush is strutting and all the rest of it, the tough guy talk, as if he's coming out of the Wild West, is playing to this strong feeling of Americans that the worst thing you can be is to be a loser. You go to Appalachia, where they're dirt poor. Really, that's the sort of rural version of the urban sort of ghettos. And they won't have welfare. You have people sort of, with kids sort of suffering from rickets and all the rest of it. But welfare is seen as a shameful thing, and because it means you're a loser. So this society has a really strong individualistic, a sort of a destructive individualism, in which people will work against their own interest, even in the promoting the delusion that they're part of the success story.
I saw America as she passed by.
Så vad ska fälla utslaget i detta Amerikas val? Gud eller pengarna? Låt oss återvända till West Virginia. Till Ed och Kelly Sobonia. Kelly med sin gudstro och republikanska övertygelse. Ed med sin Harley Davidson, men också med sitt fackföreningsorganiserade jobb som snickare och med sin växande oro för vad som ska hända med jobben och ekonomin.
Well, this is what I see. I see Walmart coming in and they want to pay minimum wage, $5.50 an hour. Well, when a gallon of gas costs you almost $2 an hour and it costs you 4 gallons of gas to get back and forth to work, you ain't making much money. That puts you on a low income, down in low income. And what people are going to have to do is resort to working 2-3 jobs. I can't do that, and that's what made me become the skilled carpenter that I am, and join the union saying, hey, I want to stand up for what I believe in, which is I'm a skilled carpenter. I deserve top pay, and that's why I'm in the union.
Well, if we come to the most important choice then this fall, who would you trust with protecting the workers more, Kerry or Bush?
I'm undecided right now. I want to hear more.
People in other parts of the world that I speak with have this vision that everyone that lives in America has $1 million home and makes $1 million a year. They don't understand that we have neighborhoods and financial situations the same as they do. That's a big misconception. Yes, maybe in the overview, we are a very, very prosperous country. But that's because we're prosperous people. Our people will go out and work. Our people will dig graves. Our people will dig in coal mines. Our people will do whatever they have to do, to make a better life for themselves.
Hoppet om att förverkliga drömmen. Det är vad som håller ihop Amerika, anser många. Om hoppet och drömmen handlar nästa program.
Wheels were carrying me from home, and as I look down